Well, Steve, it's 1:04. We've got 25 folks on, and let me remind everybody that didn't hear a minute ago, I am recording, and I will cut out personal mentions of healthcare stuff, and if anybody gets out of hand and curses, Steve or something, I'll probably cut that out, but depending on how entertaining. In general, I'll cut that all out. So, Steve, I'm going to mute everyone and turn it over to you.
I was waiting to see if you would mute me too and jump the gun.
You're on. It's
okay. Good. Thank you guys for joining us for our October 16th Waynesville Rotary meeting. Glad to have you and hope some more folks continue to join. Let's see, let's start off with concerns for our invocation with Jeff. Any concerns that we want to have included? Jeff, I don't see anybody's hand going up, so we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Please pray with me. Gracious Lord, we are thankful for this day that you have given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, its challenges. May we appreciate and use each day that comes our way. We pray for strength and guidance for each day's duties and for each day's problems. May we be challenged to always give our best, to serve well, and may we be assured of your presence with us. Amen.
Thank you, Jeff. I don't see Rich Downs in the 25. Oh, there's another page.
He's not on.
Okay. So I guess I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you, Cecil. Announcements. Mark, Larry Leatherwood was signing up for Open Door next week, so I'll let you start off.
Thank you there, President. Yes, this coming Thursday, October the 22nd, will be another volunteer opportunity for Open Door. I'll be sending out an email message, but if anybody other than Larry online is willing to step up right now, I'd appreciate that. But if not, please check out your email next week and sign up for a good Open Door cooking opportunity.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else want to volunteer along with Elwood? Put me down, Mark, because it is Bill Owen.
Okay.
All righty. Well, it has to start with three of us, so hopefully some more folks will sign up to email.
Just need one or two more then. That'll work perfect. Thank you very much, guys.
All righty. We had a board meeting yesterday and we talked about a couple of things, but really took no specific action because we've had two requests to find a way to address a couple of things that we all, I think, are wanting to support. One of them was the Polio Plus and our CART program. Rick Roscree and Sandy Giles are heading that up for us this year. And they sent a letter to us asking that we find a way maybe to use Happy Dollars or something along the lines to support Polio Plus. that's been done in some places, and it's certainly one thing we could consider. It's been really strongly supported with the Happy Dollar since we restarted that. And that's also been a budget item for income for us. So otherwise, since this is polio month, next week we're having a specific program for Polio Plus. We thought next week we would just work on getting support for donations from the club and sending them through our club foundation. Rick was involved with our meeting yesterday. Rick, would you like to pick up from there?
We still haven't determined the best strategy for fundraising for both the CART or Alzheimer's Research Fund and the Polio Plus. However, with this being Polio Awareness Month and next Saturday particularly being World Polio Awareness Day, and us having a program next week for Polio Plus, you will be receiving in the coming week a link to a giving opportunity for Polio Plus, and that will be our first blush at it. And I haven't even talked to Sandy about this yet, but we will then be developing a strategy for giving opportunities for the club, for each of you individually, to support both of these worthwhile causes through the remainder of the year. But we will make sure you have a specific opportunity next week in conjunction with next week's meeting.
Thank you, Rick. Also, Cecil sent us a blurb today that reminded me we do have an opportunity to support Polio Plus through a take out polio button or pin. And we will try to get this information out to all the membership in case you missed it when it came out from District Governor David. It's a neat looking pin, and there are giving levels in there. $40, you get a pin that says, I took out 200. I guess that's the number of doses that $40 will support. And if you give 120 or more, you get one that says, I took out 600. So I would like to get our club back on track with supporting Polio Plus, because it's important that we keep all these newborns and new kids that come along treated for the prevention of polio. We also talked about a veteran scholarship program that Brandon Wilson has brought to us as part of our membership committee. And we have veterans, we'll have a program like 2 days after Veterans Day in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to ask Brandon if he'll promote that the week before then, and then we can address perhaps special effort to put together some scholarship money to support potential of some veterans who would like to join our club. That's also something that Dean McMahon recommended when we were doing our survey back in the summer. So that's all we really had from our board meeting yesterday, other than to say that most everybody who needed to pony up for their dues and stuff had done so, except for Connor Steele and Gary Smith. And Cecil found out today that Connor has moved on to other enterprises and is no longer with the Boy Scouts. And I got a new telephone number for Gary Smith yesterday and tried it this morning, and it went to an automatic recording that it was no longer available. So if anyone out there knows how to get in touch with Gary, check on him and find out what his circumstances are, because he had some health problems last year, and I hate to let him fall off fall off without us knowing what's going on. See, Bill Owen is on here and he's had some communication with the backpack program. Bill, can you update us?
Need to unmute, Bill. Unmute, you need to unmute. There you go.
Okay. We're hoping that a week from today, next Friday, that we can resume some deliveries. Not all schools have been in contact yet with the Asheville Manna office, but we know there are 2 schools on the Canton and Bethel route that have asked for a total of 7 boxes. So we'll pick up and start slowly delivering as the requests come in. Of course, I think the students are only in school 50% right now. So I'm assuming our deliveries may be at 50% of what they were last year when they get to the maximum numbers. But I'll be in contact with volunteers that have done this in the past, and we'll make sure we have plenty of people to get the boxes delivered next week. It's a totally different year. Everything is different. As you all know, the coronavirus has changed our world, and we're very willing to adapt and make our deliveries in any way that the schools will allow us to. So that's what I have at this point in time, Cecil.
Bill, this is Brandon. I would just want to make a point. I'd love to be a part of that again. So whenever you have signups for that, please let me know. I really enjoy doing that for our kids. So
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brandon. I will contact you. Thank you. And anyone else who has in the past delivered or who never has, you can contact me through my email or my telephone number, and I'll be glad to work on our schedule for the coming year. We look forward to working with any and all volunteers. Everybody is welcome. Thank you so much.
Steve, I'd also just report to folks that Steve Sarles continues to manage and the Jukebox Junction box that remains quite active out there at Jukebox Junction. And he dropped off some money to Mark Bumgarner's office the other day. And Mark, you should have the key for that by now. And my suggestion was to just let Steve keep that key. I think it'll make it easier on him. Thank you.
Very good, Cecil. I did overlook having Brandon Wilson introduce his guests. So Brandon.
Yeah, thank you, President Steve. I have with us today Mr. David Carricker. David, sort of wave to everybody on camera there, if you would. David is the new development director at Haywood Pathways, and he is coming to us, I believe, from Virginia, where he was a former Rotarian there in Staunton. He's got 36 years of nonprofit experience, specifically with the Salvation Army and the Boys and Girls Club. He is living in Maggie Valley, or he just moved to Maggie Valley, I think just recently. And so we are looking for him to potentially become a member of the Waynesville Rotary. So this is his first meeting. And President Steve, if you will allow, if you want to let David say a few words, I think it'd be all right with me if it's all right with you.
It's good. I understand David's a former Rotarian.
Yes, I actually was a member of the Stanton, Virginia Rotary Club quite some time ago, but it was a wonderful club. It's where I learned that when you walk into the building, the first thing you do is you're going to sing an old song.
That's Paul Irvin's.
There you go. We weren't always on key, but we sure made a lot of good sound.
Good. It's good to meet you, David. Most people don't understand that it's Stanton and Waynesboro in Virginia and Waynesville and Canton in North Carolina. Let's see, that's all that I have in the way of announcements or anything else. Anybody else have an announcement? In that case, we'll turn it over to Rick Croskery to introduce our program today.
Thank you, President Steve. Well, I'm really looking forward to today's program. Our speaker today is Carol Parks, who I met when I took a course in tree identification at the J.C. Campbell Folk School last year. And I thought, this being nearly peak color time and the fact that our economy is so based on tourism and so many people come out here this time of year for this specific reason, it would be fun for us to refresh ourselves about the lovely trees that surround us and the meaning of the color that we all see. Carol is a wonderful and engaging person who I've gotten to know a little bit since that experience at the folk school. She worked in the travel industry when she was young, and she's been a book editor. But currently, she is still doing some work gardening, and she is a master gardener. And her passion really is gardening and plants, and particularly trees. She identifies the trees around us as sentient beings that are keeping watch over all of us and sort of holding the world together. And I think you'll really enjoy her take on the autumn colors. I called this program For the Love of Trees, Fall 2020 version. I believe she's renamed it slightly differently. But Cecil, when she gets to start the presentation, we will be sharing the screen from my laptop. So Carol, take it away. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Thanks, Rick. Are we good?
Yes, we hear you
Okay.
well.
Appreciate that nice introduction. And having retired from several careers by now, my current one has to do with trees. And my mission with this is to raise people's consciousness with regard to the importance of our trees and their forests. And the best way to do that is to inspire people to go outside. So I hope that will do this for you today. We owe New England no apologies at all for autumn color, although they get the rep. We're in the best part of the country to see trees in autumn, and we have far more species here than New England has, with something like 125 native species. Next. Okay, we start to notice the colors mostly when October comes along and the days turn crisp and cooler, and we start to look up and see what's going. What's missing here is the smell. There's a smell to autumn that just brings you back to life somehow. Next. So color change happens with a combination of shortening day length and cooler nighttime temperatures. That's when the colors start to appear. First at the higher elevations, like this spot up on the parkway. Different tree species respond to the temperature and day length in different ways. So we'll see some of that. So why does this color change happen? Next. All these leaves are an enormous energy drain on a tree. It costs the tree a lot in keeping them provided with nutrients and water from the root system all summer. So when days shorten and nights get cooler, the photosynthesis that the leaves are doing to make sugars to feed the tree, pay back the tree for what it's providing, the leaf production slows way down, and the tree makes its decision to cut off those leaves. So the color change is the beginning of that process. The tree will reduce the energy flowing into the leaves, flow of the nutrients and water into the leaves slowly, and they turn color. So how it works, next slide, please. A little more botany than you may want, but pay attention anyway. This is really important. Here's a cross section of a poplar twig. It's lying down, and the upshoot there is the petiole or the stem of the leaf. And in the axil where the two join, you can see next year's leaf inside that bud. And just at the bottom of the petiole, the leaf stem, you can see moving up the twig a lighter line that crosses the bottom of that leaf stem. There's a red dot in the middle, and that bright green area is the veins that bring water up into the leaf and take the sugars down that the leaf has produced. Okay, that light area at the base of the petiole is called the abscission zone. It's a very important part of the tree. So when the tree starts to form a corky cell layer right there, and that is cutting off the flow both directions. I think first the upward flow to the leaves. So chlorophyll production slows and slows and slows. Okay, next. When the chlorophyll production slows, the green color, the chloroplasts, fade away. The green is going and unmasks the sort of default color of the leaves. In this case, in most cases, yellow. Yellow to orange and lighter reds are already in the leaf, and those come from pigment, carotenoid pigment, the same thing that colors melons and squash and carrots, of course. This particular tree is a striped maple, Acer pennsylvanicum, that you see a little bit higher elevations than we are right here. Next. It's another picture of it. It's an early one to color up. It's slightly up in the mountains. It just lights up the woods in there. This tree is known elsewhere as, here is striped maple for the green stripes on the bark, but New England, it's moosewood. In some places, it's snakewood. Okay, next. Another great yellow colored tree is our black birch, or sweet birch, as it's called. This is at lower elevations. Next. And yellow comes to the black walnuts. It's very brief in the walnuts, as you know. About the time the leaves turn yellow, they also fall off. Next. And ginkgo biloba. This is not considered a native tree, but it used to be. Before the last glacial age, they were all over. They were in North America, and now they're very happy to be back. I think they're not difficult to grow. They're popular as street trees. They're even more popular since we learned how to clone the male trees only and not have the females. If you've ever experienced female ginkgo tree, those fruits, when they fall in the autumn, when you step on them, they exude a fragrance, something like the odor of what a sick dog leaves behind, or worse. Next. And yellow goes to our native black cherry trees. This is also an early one to change color and quickly loses its yellow leaves with the first windstorm of autumn. Next. And we can't fail to miss the tulip tree because it's one of our most ubiquitous trees. And even when it's yellow and brown and crunchy looking, it has a spectacular stately form and deserves a good spot in the autumn landscape. Next. One you may or may not have noticed much, it barely qualifies as a tree, more a large shrub, is the devil's walking stick. That if you look at the armature on that branch that goes across the lower third of the picture, the trunk looks exactly the same, and they're often found on stream banks. And it's one that you don't want to grab as you're pulling yourself up a slippery stream bank. You'll know where it got its name. Next. As the real stars of the autumn show are the maples, and particularly sugar maples. These are more common and noted in New England. We are about at the southern end of their range, and slightly higher altitudes than we are, they are more common. This particular shot was taken on Kimberly Avenue in Asheville. It used to have a big archway of them this time of year, but many of those trees have died. Next. A sugar maple that shows quite well the effect of lower temperatures and light on the color change. If you look at the interior of the tree that you can see in the bottom, it's still green. And the right side of the tree also, it's up next to a building. But the part sticking out where it's exposed to sunlight and breezes, and probably a good bit cooler at night, has got its orange and yellow and then red color. Get to the red color in a minute. Okay, next. This is a close-up of leaves on that red side of the tree, and it's farther along in its color change. We've seen a lot of the yellow color that's unmasked with the produced by the keratin pigments. This darker red doesn't come from the keratin that's in the leaf, but it comes from anthocyanins that are actually produced by the leaf, manufactured by the leaf. And the why of this is something that's been discussed by people for a long time. Red is generally a warning color in trees, so perhaps this is to warn off munching insects and allow the tree a little bit more time to drain those leaves of the sugars that are still in them, drain them into the roots for storage. Or another theory is that the red acts as a sunscreen. Once the green is gone, which reflects sunlight, the leaves are more vulnerable. So adding a sunscreen again gives the leaf time to drain out the last of its sugars it's been producing through the summer. Good theories, right? Okay, next. Even artificial light has an effect on a tree. And if you look at this bad photo taken next to a street light, the leaves on the far side of the tree are long gone, but the ones on the left, because it's got light on it all night long, are still hanging on. That side of the tree isn't quite as aware that days are growing shorter. Next. Not all maples are red, and some of them are quite not red. This is a Norway maple, not a native tree, but they're all over the place. And it gets yellow, goes to sometimes to a goldy orange color, but never quite makes red. This one's in a rather shaded location, so it stays yellow. Next. Red maple. These are our trees that are famous for being red, but in fact, they are not always red in autumn. More often show a variety of color from yellows to oranges to reds, which are quite pleasant, but people want to insist on a red maple. What you need to do is go buy one that has been cloned for the nursery trade from a known red variety. There's one called October Glory, I think, that has, from which they've made a gazillion progeny by tissue culture. And that one is reliable to produce red. Good, thank you, Rick. Next. Okay, this one though is managing a pretty good red color, at least on the one side. Okay, next. For a good red, it's hard to beat our native dogwood. This particular tree gets good morning sun, so it's developed quite a deep red color. Next. And just a close up. This tree is in full sun, and it has its red fruit the squirrels haven't managed to harvest yet, and also the white flower buds for next spring. Next. Black gum is not a great picture, but this particular black gum is on a south-facing mountainside. It gets good bright sun, and it's just brilliant red in the autumn. Next. This one, however, is in the woods, pretty much in shade, and has never managed much more than an orange color before the leaves drop. Next. So another real star of the autumn show is sweet gum. If you live in a place where these can be allowed to grow, nice moisture. It has the full spectrum of the autumn color rainbow on the tree all at one time. And if you object to those spiky little fruits it produces, next. There is a variety called Rotunda loba that has not only doesn't produce fruit, or not much, but it has the leaves are rounded off at the tips. They're not quite star-shaped. It's hard to see them in that picture. This was a sport that was discovered, a naturally occurring sport discovered in the wild in North Carolina in about 1930. And it was propagated and later introduced to the trade by J.C. Ralston, North Carolina's most famous plantsman, for whom the Arboretum at NC State University is named. It has the same beautiful autumn color. Next. My own favorite is a sourwood, which is familiar to everybody, I'm sure. This picture was taken early in September at about driving down Chunky Gal Mountain. So this is probably about 3,400 feet. And already they were showing color when everything else is still bright green. Next. And this one on my property, a young tree, so it tends to hold its leaves longer than a large tree will do. And in a rather sheltered place, this was taken mid-November, still holding its bright red leaves. Next. The oaks. Oak trees are a little more subtle in their coloring and don't quite put on the show of the maples, but still develop a beautiful, deep, rich red-brown color, many of them. No, this is a white oak, but northern red oaks, black oaks, southern red oaks will also color up this way. Next. On the oaks, they quickly go through the yellow coloration when the chlorophyll starts to diminish and put on the red coat almost immediately, within a day or so, if the conditions are right. Next. Not a native, but I think a fabulous tree. This is a Persian ironwood, It's not a cousin of our own ironwood, although the bark is similar, smooth, muscly trunk on it, but just show-stopping, brilliant color this time of year. It's a nice tree to have on your property. It's a very slow grower. Next. And a really special tree. This is a Franklinia. It's a relative of the camellia, and so of the native Stewardias. The Franklinia, also called Franklin tree, its Latin name is Franklinia alitamaha. It was discovered by John Bartram, the father of American botany, in 1760 along the Alitamaha River in South Georgia. That river is now lost a vowel and just known as the Altamaha River, if that makes sense. So John Bartram later sent his son back there, William, to collect seed because he didn't have all he wanted. And then Bartram Sr. propagated it in his Philadelphia garden, named it for his friend, Benjamin Franklin. So all the plants now in existence came from John Bartram's original seedlings that he grew. It has not been seen in the wild since about 1800. It's quite special. Why it disappeared, it wasn't particularly populous in the first place, but some of the guesses are fire, flood, fungal disease introduced on cotton plants, or just over collection. Next, here's one. This Rick was at the folk school. We have one there on campus, and students in this class pick some of the leaves off in order to paint them, but it's a good show of the variety of color. Okay, it's not just trees to look at for autumn color, but some of the smaller plants as well. Next. Sumac. Can't beat the red of sumac. Doesn't last too long, but it certainly puts on a show in the median strips on highways and roadsides and wood edges. Next. And the vaccinium, the blueberries, cranberries, all those sorts of berries that grow even in the rock, sandy places, on the mountains, up at graveyard fields, bright red. In Maine, it's both blueberries and cranberries put on the show, and they can cover acres at this time of year. Next. Fothergilla, which a lot of people plant in their landscapes, is, I think, prettier in autumn when it gets this color on it than it is with its fluffy white spring flowers. Next. And the witch hazels. They're not always red. Many are orangey gold colors, the beautiful autumn color in landscape. Some of them even start to bloom about now. So all these shrubs and trees we've been looking at are deciduous, trees that lose their leaves all at the same time in autumn. But what about autumn color on evergreens? Next. The white pine, if you may or may not notice, because there's so much else to look at, but it's putting on quite a show with all its gold needles. These are old leaves about to fall. The pine keeps its needles for a year and a half, and it will drop some, so some are always on and some are less. This lessens the tree's energy deficit in the winter. It doesn't have so many leaves to support, so it loses them now. This is a favorite question. Working in the master gardener office on the hotline, people will call this time of year, my pine tree's dying, what should I do? And you say, why do you think it's dying? It's all turned yellow, all the needles are turning yellow and falling off. All of them? Well, I think so. Well, has it ever done this before? No, you know, every year. Okay, next. I went out, I wanted a picture for you of a rhododendron in its autumn colored leaves. And what I did instead was wake up my resident bear. Her name is Joy. And we both did the quick backward two-step until I got far enough away from her so she could move somewhere else. Bless her heart. Next. This is the picture I was after. Rhododendrons, the leaves that are about to drop off, are actually quite beautiful and make a nice contrast with the green. Next, and the grand finale of the color season, and to wrap up all the color show and this presentation, the hickories. They just seem to wait and wait and wait and bide their time. And once the maples have gone bare and the oaks are all brown and crunchy and most of the other leaves are on the ground, the hickories light up the grayest day. Next. One close-up pignut hickory, very familiar in these parts. So we talked about things that affect autumn color, but a few other things. How much moisture we receive in the summer also affects what we have in autumn. If there is not any rain, if it's a droughty summer, the leaves go from color change to on the ground much more quickly. The tree's anxious to get rid of them. They're a water deficit. An early hard freeze can take care of that too. The abscission layer just abscises right at that time. Windstorms, of course, when the leaf is clinging tenaciously at this point when it's all pretty and colorful, and a good windstorm can blow it bare overnight. Ginkgos especially, by golly, the leaves all seem to go at once. Also, every little microclimate reacts differently. So you can, one side of your yard have the same tree looking altogether different from the one on the other side of your yard. So all of you, here's a challenge to you. Take a mental health day next week, eat out of your busy schedule, and go enjoy the reason we all love to live here, okay? I want to thank you for letting me be here today. Thank you for all the good work you're doing. And thanks especially to Rick for being the technological master. If you have any questions, try to answer.
A couple. We're building a house and on our lot, we have two tree species that I had never seen before. One is a Carolina silverbell.
Oh.
It's called a buffalo nut tree.
Oh.
They seem to be native to at least villages of Platte Creek because there seem to be a whole lot of them out there. Are they considered native, or do you know those species?
You know, there's a little bell dinging way in the back of my mind, and I read something about this. I would like to go home and research it and get back to you. If I can get through Rick an email to you or something.
They are interesting trees, and
they are. I'm not sure they're good.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure whether they're good guys or bad guys.
That would be nice to know.
Yes, there's something in the back of my head. I would like to answer that, and I can't from memory. But the silver bell, oh, wonderful. That's a great one to have.
Yes, we've enjoyed them, even though we'd never seen them before.
Oh.
But
they're not uncommon, but not terribly common. One of my tree gurus who taught me was with the Forest Service, and his last research project before he retired was investigating a stand of native pink silver bells.
Hmm.
I had never seen one of those.
Rick?
Carol, I thought you might take a second and make a couple of plugs. One, for the programs at J.C. Campbell, let the people know kind of where the status of the folk school is right now and what their plans are. And number two, you might make a plug, because we have a couple of Haywood Community College people here, about their lumber program and their beautiful trees on the Haywood Community College campus.
Ah, okay. Well, a definite plug for John C. Campbell. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. I'm always surprised that people so close don't know about it. It's been in existence continuously since 1925, just about to hit the 100-year mark, and then the coronavirus gets us. And the school has been closed since the end of March because it's on-campus residency, group dining hall, and all these things. But they've started opening in a different way a little bit. They have a website. If you Google folkschool.org, you can see what's happening. I did a virtual tree class about 2 weeks ago, and the same day, just a short day class for local people who can drive there and go home in a day and pack their own lunch. So it's very disconcerting to see the campus so empty. It's a beautiful place and a nice place to be this time of year. Next year, I'm on the schedule to teach a couple classes. One is the tree class Rick took a year ago, which is I teach trees jointly with a woman who teaches watercolor, and the students work on a tree journal, which for some, I've been teaching this one for 11 years, and heard from some students they're still adding to their tree journals. So that's my plug for that. And I'm sorry, the next.
Community college.
Oh, yeah. My alma mater for dendrology, that was some years ago, and I wanted a really good tree class to learn about the trees because I didn't know about them and could not find one, and took this little class and that little class and couldn't do that one because I had a full-time business going and the commute from Asheville where I live, so on. And this year they offered it online, and I signed up right away. Found out that's an awful way to learn about trees. We badgered the poor instructor to give us a couple days on campus and learned what a fabulous arboretum John Palmer had planted there. And Rick and I are trying to work out a time soon to go over there. I haven't had a walk on that campus since. It was quite an experience, a great class, although it dwindled mightily through the semester. I was the oldest student by far, probably 2 or 3 times the age of the others. So they thought, therefore, I should know more than they did, which I did not, but pretended for so long that I finally did. It was a great, great place to learn about trees.
Jeff Meigs is wanting to ask a question.
And what determines the brightness of the autumn colors?
Pardon? I'm sorry.
Next. What determines the brightness of the autumn colors from one year to the next? Is it rain, excess rain?
That can have a lot to do with it, yes. If we have a wet summer, as we've had this year with adequate moisture, the tree will put on a better show. Also, sunlight in October when the leaves are beginning to change. If we have gray, rainy days, they don't develop those brilliant reds to the extent they do with adequate sunshine. So we've had really good conditions this year for a good color show, right? At least where I am.
You have some more questions? Don Keith?
Yes, Carol, we're all familiar with the demise of the American chestnut trees. Up on Cataloochee Ranch, they have a
Yeah.
project up there that regretfully I haven't gone. I think it was on a Wednesday. You could go up there and tour their progress back a year or two ago before it sold. What is the current status of the combination or joining together of the American chestnut with the Asian, I believe it is, chestnut, and are they doing well?
Oh,
You know-
boy, there's a question. That's a long one. I'm not sure. I know I followed the American Chestnut Society for quite a while and watched them with the continued experiments in back crossing and so on, and then hooked up with the others who are trying the genetic modification, which is, last I heard, still waiting for the FDA to approve it before they could get going with that. And that seems to look like the better way to go. But I'm not really an expert on this at all. I hadn't been up to Cataloochee for probably 8 years or so. Do they still have the original American chestnuts that they were trying to breed with? Do you know?
I do not. Do not know.
Looks like we have time for one more question before we hit the magic 2 o'clock hour.
Shelley had her hand up.
I did. I was just going to add a plug. Thank you, Carol, for sharing your experience with the dendrology class. And that's a group of students I've seen around campus even this fall, and they're outside looking at trees and social distancing and all of that on campus. But I'll put in a plug for checking out the trees here on campus. We are a campus arboretum and a member of Tree Campus USA, which means that we affirm to take care of the trees on our campus and provide certain variety. But just on our 1 mile loop around campus, you can see a wide variety of the trees that Carol shared today. So I encourage you all to come over and take a walk around campus on one of these beautiful fall days.
We'll be there soon. And apparently on campus are all the 125 native species, or whatever number it is by now. But John Palmer went to great lengths to have everything, even things that shouldn't quite grow. There's an Allegheny chinkapin, or there was at least, the cousin of the American chestnut, which is not hard to find anymore. Those are mostly gone too.
There are some very unique ones, I know for sure. And just to take the time and look at some of the placard cards and look at the differences. I know even down at the mill pond, there are a few like cypress trees and things like that are growing down there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. One thing Carol just said, that Carol just said that was important is that she said we have 125 different kinds of trees here. Just about anywhere else you live in the country, you don't have that variety. We have the most variety of anywhere, and that's one reason why it's such a treat to be here in the mountains, in this particular set of mountains this time of year. So thanks for the program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. It occurred to me we did not do happy dollars today. So can we do a quick happy dollars? I'll start by giving $5 for my Georgia Tech team coming together last week and winning a ball game. Anybody else have a happy dollar? Nobody else won any football games last week? I'm glad Floyd Rogers is not here because we play Clemson tomorrow. All right.
We're waiting on the real football to start next week when Big Ten comes into play.
And then I'll have to talk about the Buckeye tree.
Okay, yeah. Enough said.
More than enough said.
All right, good deal. We'll see you next week, and our program will be about the Polio Plus program.
All right.
So have a good week. See you next
Good
week.
day.